Shut up and sit down.
You got to be relentless.
I know you don't understand. How could I spend $5,000 on a bike? You think that's absurd? Well, there's only one answer, and there's only one word. It's performance. I don't think you understand. Riding with finesse is more than track stands. I got a word of advice for all of you.
You are listening to the 54th installment of the Dialed Podcast with Matt Legrand, Evan Price, Lance Hepler, and Jake Von During. Here is my new tip of the day. Growing old is mandatory. Growing up, definitely optional. If you enjoy the show, go tell a friend how much you love me.
I'm always holding my line. My bike is so light and dialed in just right. I got my seat raised to just the right height so I can...
I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen. Cannonball!
7, I'm in nothing but spandex, cutting through the wind cause I'm aerodynamic. And when I slam it, it makes you look inert. Now I'm eating up hills like my name was Eddie Merckx. With my endurance, you don't stand a chance. My cardiovascular fitness level's right up there with Lance. Doing what I...
Hi, and welcome to the Dialed Podcast. I am Jake Von During, and today I'm here with Lance Hepler.
It's Lance Romance in the studio today. Yes, studio. I am in studio. I am in studio.
Yeah.
Here.
You're
not
welcome.
in Utah.
Not in
in
Utah.
Idaho. Not in Arizona.
I'm right here with my friends.
Not
yes,
in California.
For sure.
We have Evan Price.
How's it going?
Good.
So boring.
I know. We have to have one that's low key. It comes right after the high key one.
He's our
It's a
token
good point.
broken millennial over here.
Exactly.
And Matt Legrand.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? How are you guys doing?
Good.
Really
They
well.
are. They're
Matt,
great.
how
the
old
people-
are you turning coming up here?
I'll be turning 40.
40.
The end of March.
The big 4-0 coming.
Yes.
I
know.
honestly thought you were actually like
80?
36 or 37. No, I did not think you were 39. I should know this, but yeah.
You look like you're 37, but you act like you're 39.
Okay,
what does
okay.
that mean?
Enough about Matt's age, guys. We got something else. We're not done yet here. We've got a special guest with us today. Today we have Meredith Atwood with us on Skype. Hi, Meredith. This is Jake speaking on the behalf of Meredith. She says hi. More on that in a few minutes. Hello. We doing well.
We're doing great.
It's better than my intro already, Meredith.
And to everybody listening to us live, sorry we are late. Technology has failed us yet once again. And but we're here and it's all working. And hi, you guys can see us now. Anyhow, let's get started with our backpedal. Lance, backpedal for us.
How was my week for the last week? I actually took a bit of a down week. I definitely started to feel the last month and a half of monster training. So
Superman finally fell off his perch over there.
I'm not going to say he fell off the perch, though, because on Saturday he did anything but fall off the perch.
Well,
so.
for me, that's interesting that you bring that up.
Yeah.
We did do a team ride on Saturday, and it was 60 or 70 miles, and it was mostly flat. There was like 25 people or so that came.
Yep.
All four of us were there on the team ride.
Yep.
And we went out to where there's going to be a time trial next weekend. And so we went out to the course, and we kind of pre-rode the course together as a team. And we worked the course very hard.
Much harder than I was not expecting that.
Which is only like a 30-minute little...
Yeah.
I mean, what is it, 12 miles?
12
Something?
miles.
Yeah.
So,
12.3.
Yeah, like a 30-minute effort. And
did not feel little.
we had a B group go out first, and then an A group that tried to chase them down.
And the A group just shattered apart as it went.
Well, the A group, there was, I got to say this, there was 8 or 9 of us in the A group, and we caught the B group by about the turnaround point.
Not me.
Except not Matt. Matt went out with the B group. But
stayed away.
There
I didn't stay away the whole
there was 8 or 9
Stay
of
away
us,
from me.
and we were working actually really hard and kind of working through the front and going pretty fast. We were moving 28 or 29 or 30 miles an hour. But then probably only 7 or 8 miles into it, 4 of us kind of got off the front. It gapped, and we broke apart the A group. So it was me and Jake and Chris Surratt and
Sean was with you guys.
Sean, that's
Martin,
right.
yep.
I was going to give a huge shout out to Sean today.
Oh my
That's my back
gosh.
pedal is a shout out to Sean. That's the whole back pedal for me.
So the four of us got to the turnaround, and we were drilling it. I mean, we were going full gas.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we were constantly rotating. So we weren't just taking pulls at the front. We were constantly rotating. And this was very humbling for me because the last 3-4 weeks, I have felt like Superman. I have felt great. I've been able to pretty much stay almost with anybody, and I got dropped by these three guys.
But you're also on the Jake train.
was on
The Jake train was not messing around on
And
Saturday.
I got blasted by
The Jake train was in full force on Saturday.
So I was feeling very humbled after that. Okay, yeah, I just got
You climbed with me though.
got blasted. I did. I was able to climb with you.
When we were pushing the pace a little bit up there, you were climbing right with us. So yeah.
So anyway, that was probably the highlight of my week. Other than I did get to go play in the dirt with Jake a little bit one day too.
Oh, nice.
So
Nice.
we got out for a bit.
Nice.
Yep, went out and got muddy on Friday.
Yeah.
Last Friday was fun. So
It was fun.
Evan, back pedal for us.
Can keep this pretty simple. I trained a bunch, felt good. Saturday hurt because I was not I was like kind of still a little bit like tired Saturday, and I'm thinking like, okay, we're doing a course preview. I'm thinking that's like a preview to the actual effort that we're doing, not like a full gas effort the whole
was full
way.
gas.
So I think I took a pull and a half. Sean came by me, and Sean was dropping the hammer on those flat sections.
Yeah.
I mean, God, good job, Sean. Like, that's just a massive shout out to him. And then, yeah, I couldn't feel my legs till we started climbing again. That was the only time I felt like my legs came back and I was fine. But, God, yeah, if we had done another segment of that, I wouldn't have been anywhere near you guys. So, yeah.
It was fun.
The group is hammering. The California group is absolutely hammering it. Yeah.
Evan, for our new listeners or whatever, you're a professional triathlete. You do a lot of work. How many hours did you put in for the week? Probably before Saturday, you had maybe a little bit more mileage than the rest of us.
Before he gives you that number two, let's not gloss right over what you did yesterday.
Oh God, yeah.
Evan, that was I threw up in my mouth a little bit when I saw that post up on Strava.
I don't even know what you did.
You know what the sad thing
didn't
is?
see
Is
it.
that I don't think I could tell you how many times I've done a trainer century.
He
I've
sat
done-
on the
I've done
freaking
a
trainer
lot.
for over 5 hours yesterday and
Yeah.
did a century.
Did you really?
But this was a PR actually for me for trainer power for a century. So I put out about 210
Oh my
for
gosh.
the whole workout
Oh
there.
my goodness. Okay.
Yeah. So that was this
No reprieve in that.
I know.
I mean,
Oh, it
you
was
probably
terrible.
stopped to use the bathroom, and that was your
once.
reprieve.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only break
This
that your
is-
legs got.
thi-
Did you wear a diaper and just go in the?
I should have.
Of course, people are calling us right now. Sorry.
This is also how I do my fat metabolism training, though, is so I only drink maybe 2 bottles of water and no food during it.
Right.
But I've done this type of training in the past. It's not
Right.
weird for me. But yeah, it never gets any more comfortable. Like it's still you're sitting on a trainer for 5 hours and 15
Did you
minutes.
watch a movie or something?
I watch a lot of YouTube videos.
Okay.
So I watched like 2 full ITU races, a bunch of random music albums, and
You should watch my channel.
I actually I watched both of your new videos
Okay.
like 4 times. I just kept on cycling through. So I could tell you most seconds of that. Yeah, I felt like I was in California with you. But yeah,
Lance made it.
Did you see my backflip in the
I did.
second video?
I did. I like it.
That was impressive. I was like, how do I fit this in?
But yeah, so yeah, this last week for me was 20-some K in the pool, 70 miles running, and over 13 hours on the bike.
Oh
so,
my goodness.
That's crazy.
and I'll be doing that for
A little bit. But,
a long time. Yeah.
I think you're doing great though. I mean,
Yeah,
you had it. You
I
had
feel
a little
okay.
down, you had a down week. You're running really well. So
Yep.
doing
Time to start. The problem for me is each time I show up for a dialed ride, my legs have got to be ready to go, and it's hard for me Saturday, Sunday to like once the day's going, I feel good, but like God, you guys like hit it from the start, and it is like
right.
it is tough for me to get the legs going to hang with you boys. So
I think it's good for you to put that kind of pressure
it
on
is.
without
It is.
feeling
Yeah.
ready for it.
no, you're like
Yeah.
like that was these Saturdays are going to be me just getting there and being like, all right, it's time to hang on to the Lance and Jake train. So yeah.
You did not say Matt Train. That's okay.
When I got dropped from that front group, Matt picked him up. he jumped on the
Matt's
front
writing
group.
stronger now than he admits.
Yes,
he is.
he's writing
He is.
really good.
Yeah. All right, Matt.
Well, I want to hear from Meredith, actually.
Let's do
that.
So Meredith Atwood, if you guys are not familiar with her, probably a lot of our listeners are familiar with you just because you've been writing about triathlon for a long time. Your website is swimbikemom.com for people to go and check out and read more about it. But you have super big news, right? Like, you have a book coming out. Did you get an advance copy?
Very
This
cool.
I know, like, but this week is, the back pedal is.
Oh.
Hey, this is Jake again, and I wanted to let you know that we had another slight technological challenge with Meredith's feed. We had a USB port go bad on us, and through that process, something kind of went sideways, but we did fix it and only managed to lose 15 seconds of the conversation we had with Meredith. In those 15 seconds, she informed us that she is releasing her second edition of her book, Triathlon for the Every Woman, which was originally released in 2012. Her connection is perfect from here on out, so enjoy her and the rest of the show.
Stores and all of that. So
That's really so.
yeah.
Triathlon for Every Woman, Meredith. Is that what it's called? Very cool.
Yeah.
That's
Triathlon
exciting.
for the every woman.
For the every woman.
For the every woman. Got it.
Yeah. I am excited to pick this book up for sure. I mean, like, I'll read it, but also, like, maybe I can convince my wife. My wife can do triathlon. She's a very good athlete. She has done triathlons in the past, but I sometimes think, like, there are parts of it that are still very daunting. So
yeah, for
just having
sure.
the book around
For
the
sure.
house is
And I wrote this book coming off of my first half Ironman. So I in no way was an expert. I was very close to how terrifying it all was, and all of the wounds were still very fresh. And so when I wrote the first edition, I wrote it as very much a beginner. And so going back through it this time for the edit, I just couldn't believe all the details I had for things like, what do you pack in your gym bag? It's really, the book breaks it down, and it's a non-intimidating Bible. It's a nice big book that brings a lot of comfort, I think, because you can just stuff it under your arm and be like, there's got to be something in here that will help me.
We need to pass this around. Meredith, we have a triathlon team that is quickly growing, the Dial Triathlon team, and we do have a lot of I think first-time triathlete women this season especially. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
This book will be passed around our team, I am sure.
Well, I am glad to send you guys some copies to give away too. So
Awesome. Thank you.
Let me know.
So, Meredith, now you're doing some CrossFit stuff too. How was your week this week?
Oh, so yeah, right now is the CrossFit Open. So for anyone who doesn't know, that's the yearly event where everyone competes in the same workout for the week. Like all amateurs and pro CrossFitters. I don't even know. I'm such a newbie. But my daughter's really into CrossFit. She's 10, and I've been doing some like figure bodybuilding type workouts, and so I haven't been doing the CrossFit workouts very much, and so I thought I would just throw my hat into this open and see where I fell. And it was interesting this week. I ripped my hands open, but it's fine. It's all about the glory.
I think the hand ripping open is like almost just a rite of passage into CrossFit, isn't it?
Gosh, I don't know what's wrong. It's always my palms. It's never like the big calluses near the fingers. I'm used to those. I know you guys probably have them cycling, but the palms always go on me. It's disgusting. Yeah. And then you just walk around like stigmata for a week.
Yeah, you've got a pass that kind of parallels the CrossFit stuff. You were a junior national Olympic champion, weightlifting champion.
Yeah,
correct?
weightlifting.
Yeah.
I did weightlifting from the age of 13 to about 19, and then I competed on the national and international level. And then I proceeded to become a world champion in beer drinking and pizza eating and
Much
parenting.
more important title. Yeah.
After that, and did absolutely nothing for pretty much a decade until I found triathlon. Yeah.
Very cool.
So what brought you to the triathlon then? Just from that, I mean, that's obvious. That really does not parallel the weightlifting world.
I was going to ask that same question based on what I was reading about her, that she had a completely impacted life. So, just tell us, how did you get there?
Yeah, so it was basically cookies. Cookies brought me to triathlon because I was about 250 pounds with 2 kids under the age of 2. And I was working as an attorney in this law firm, and I got an email that we were having a lunch and learn. And I always went to those things because they had amazing cookies. And this particular lunch and learn, I got in there, got my sandwich, my like 6 cookies, and plopped my fat butt down and prepared to eat. And then I looked up, and it was a gym membership, like sales team there, ready to sell us all gym memberships.
They were giving.
Oh,
that's
geez.
an evil sales pitch.
It was
Oh
terrible.
my God, that's a
And
terrible sales pitch.
yes, it really was. And I'm such a people pleaser that, of course, I walked out of there with a membership and a gym bag and thought, well, here I go again. Because, I mean, I'd been trying to get my act together for a really long time. And with 2 kids that are babies and a legal career in this commute, it just I don't know what I was thinking, but I went home and I told my husband I'd joined this gym, and he looked at me, and he's not a cruel guy, but he just looked at me in the same way he'd been looking at me for the last year when I was trying to, get going. And he's like, okay, well, good luck. And, I waddled into the gym the next morning at 5:30 in the morning, and it was quiet and my commute was easier. And I walked into the spinning class, and before I knew it, I was sitting on the teeny tiny seat and hurting and crying. I started crying, which was great. And it just was this moment where I thought, and the spinning instructor said something that was, sort of cheesy, but it really impacted me. He said, today's the first day of the rest of your life. And then I cried harder. And it just was this moment where I thought, I can do better than this 250-pound cookie-seeking attorney. He's very angry and out of shape. I mean, I used to be an athlete, and that was where it started. And I kept going to this one spinning class for over a year. And at some point I approached the instructor and I said, hey, I need you to help me, because I thought he would just like make me skinny because he was skinny. And it turned out he was a cyclist and an Ironman and all this. And he goes, well, you want to do triathlon, right? And I looked at him and I was like, oh, no, I just thought like you could make me skinny. And he said, you could do a triathlon if you wanted to. I see how hard you work in this spinning class. You could do a triathlon. And I thought, this man he is gorgeous, but he is crazy. And, I call what he said to me a strange permission, because in that moment, he gave me this strange permission to try something new. And I did. I went out, it was probably 6 weeks later, and I did my first triathlon. It had a pool swim, and I had this old rusty bike, and I fell and crashed in transition, and it was terrible. It was the worst experience of my life, but it was the best, because I came out of that race thinking, if I just did that, I can do anything. Yeah. And so from there, it just grew, and I started writing about it. And I thought, if I can give women this strange permission that Jerry, my spinning instructor, gave me, then I think it's a good thing. And so that's kind of where it all started, is I tell women they can do this, and they look at me like I looked at him, and then they go do Ironman.
and that's awesome, Meredith, hearing that your first race was a disaster, because I think a lot of people getting into triathlon picture this like magic. It's almost like falling in love with like Prince Charming. It's like you expect that first triathlon to be incredible, and it usually sucks.
I know.
Like it does.
Do you know anyone
And I just wrote an article for Triathlete magazine where I said the biggest thing that's going to get in the way of your first race is thinking about your first race.
Yeah.
You just need to like not worry about that. Just train and then go do it and pretend it never happened.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I've never met anybody who did their first triathlon and was like, oh yeah, I killed it, did awesome. Everything went perfectly.
My first triathlon race, I probably have told the story before, but I drafted a guy for like 5 miles because I didn't even know drafting was illegal. I just sat, hey, this is easier right behind this guy. Stupid.
I think a problem though for the athlete that's maybe paralleling the course that Meredith took to get there would be that you come from a background where you're uber competitive, and then all of a sudden all of your athleticism is gone. Then you come back and you do your first event and you're like, my mind is still super competitive, and there's that big buildup of tension, and I got to go out there and compete and perform, and people need to put that aside. Just go out there and enjoy, take it all in, and learn from it. So
Meredith, did you find, and this is, I've met actually some weightlifters and bodybuilders who come into triathlon, and they seem to do very well. Did you see that a lot of your consistency and work ethic with weightlifting really translated very well over into the triathlon world?
I think the only thing that translated for me was my work ethic, because there was no like physicality that's left. Like now, I can say, yeah, I've got some muscle. It translates to the run. But yeah, I mean, definitely the work ethic translated. I knew that sports were painful, and I knew that there was a strong mental component. The nice thing about triathlon versus weightlifting is you have about 1 second to get your weightlifting game right. You walk out onto the platform, you've got 1 second to move that weight. Anything in that second, any error, and it's over. And that's why I like Ironman so much, because you got like 17 hours to get it right.
Oh yeah.
You got all this time all day long.
I don't do well with 5-second pressure. I need it stretched out over hours.
and that's what I try and tell women. They're like, oh, I just, I can't go do this. And I'm like, you have 3 hours, you have 5 hours, depending on what race. If you're doing a local sprint, you have until you're done.
Yeah.
Just go move forward, put one foot in front of the other. And we just put so much pressure on ourselves. Endurance sport, and it's kind of funny to be like as slow as I am in a sport based on speed. But I mean, when you're trying to better your life and to start out and do something that's really, bold and daring, it's really not about speed. It's about putting yourself out there. And everyone out there would like to be faster. Everyone. But that's not necessarily the goal of, especially someone coming into the sport, say a new mom in her late 20s or early 30s. I mean, it's just everything's gone to hell in a handbasket. You gotta just start where you are.
How do you get people over that though? Because that's such a hurdle for people to get off the couch or turn off the TV or actually start doing something. I mean,
well, I think a lot of it the success I've seen has been because I just showed my story. In 2014, I was racing Beach to Battleship, which was before Ironman made the purchase for that iron distance event, and I was out there racing I say racing, I was on the mile 16 of the run walk. And this woman came out of nowhere and grabbed my arm. She was a spectator, and she goes, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you're doing this. And I said, yeah, do you not smell me? I mean, look, yes, I'm in spandex. But she goes, I just can't believe it. And, I was way bigger than I am right now, but I was a big girl out there doing it. I finished sub 15 that race. And I think people seeing me do it and me tell the story, I crashed in transition. I, fell on the run and, I pooped my pants. And you tell that, and then people go, "Well, gosh, she literally did that." And
if you're not peeing or pooping yourself, you're not even really doing an Ironman. It doesn't even count if you didn't do that at least once.
Right. I mean, and it's the same way. I try and tell people who say, "Well, how do you get your children into sports?" Well, they're watching you. You can't force your kids to do sports. You've either been gifted a kid who likes athletics or they don't. But if they see you being healthy and they see that you can do these things at whatever size you are, at whatever level you are, then they're more likely to try. And I think that's been the whole pull with Swim Bike Mom is women have seen me. And most, 79% of women out there look better than me out there on the course. And so I always joke that these women will run by me going a 9-minute mile and they're like, Swim Bike Mom, you inspired me. And then they're gone. And I'm like, well, screw you. Because they're just flying by. And but as women, I think we're just our own worst enemy. And just to see someone out there that's doing it, I think that makes a difference.
I think the courage it takes to show that kind of vulnerability is very inspiring to people, for sure. And I'm sure that's why you're so popular, because of being able to share that vulnerability and know that, hey, anybody can do this.
Well, you know what it is? I think people call it vulnerability, but I think what I was actually doing when I wrote was I was looking for some other voice in the woods to shout back, I'm here too, or you're okay, or this looks like fun. Because when I started in like 2010, there just really wasn't a lot of people like me out there doing triathlon. And I think now it's easy to tell the stories, but back then I just wanted someone to say, "Oh, I'm watching you. What you doing?" I want to do that too. And it became, I think it is vulnerability, but it's almost just looking for community, for someone else who feels the same way, who felt like a terrible mother that day and then got on their bike and felt like a better mother, which is quite the opposite of what I think our society wants us to believe.
Yeah. There, Meredith, for me, it was when I think I was 19 when my mom did her first Ironman, which was at Louisville. And I remember, we were at the finish line when the pros were finishing, which was great, to see, how fast those guys are and all that. But for me, the part that actually really changed my outlook on the sport was when we were there the last hour of people finishing. And I'm sure, you've been there and experienced that finish line when it's, there's like 30 minutes left and you got some people crawling across that finish line in their 70s, or people who, mothers who had just had children and are there, or, the 280-pound guy coming across the finish line. Like, those are the ones to me that, if people want to get inspired to be in the sport, just go to an Ironman and just watch the last hour. Yeah. And you'll realize you're like, oh, I can clearly do this. Like, you got the 82-year-old like limping across the line, which is just awesome. So,
and if I'm racing it, then that's when you'll see me.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah. And that's just, I think that's the part that you're right. It's realizing that, okay, I'm not isolated in this. There's other people just like me that can cross that finish line. So.
Well, in Lake Placid in 2015, I just had a terrible race. I got nailed in the head in the swim and just was out of it half the bike. And I ended up having to walk the entire marathon because I had 2 massive foot pad blisters that were just done. And I knew if I ran, they were just going to tear. And I was like, I can walk this. I walked like a 16-minute mile. And this girl came up to me. I think there were 3 miles left. And she's like, "Oh, you're swim bike mom." And I was like, "Yes." And she goes, "Oh, I'm just so thankful for you." And then I burst into tears. And I told her, I was like, "I can't do this. Please stop saying how inspirational I am." Because like all day people were like, "Oh, you're so great." And she was like, "No, it's okay." And I cried for, I swear, a mile with this girl. And I said, and I finally got myself together. And I said, don't tell anyone, okay? I'm telling you, I was crying. And then I go on to tell that story.
There you go. Yeah.
Because I was so close to the clock on that one. My Garmin had died, and I didn't know where I was time-wise. I just could hear Mike Riley, and I knew I had 2 miles left. And I came in with like 16 minutes to spare. But that's where all the heart and soul, and not to say all the heart and soul, because that's not true, but that's where a lot of the war wounds and the real
majority
guts
of it
are.
is definitely. Yeah.
So you've got a thing that you've kind of hung yourself up with. I am relentless, I am worthy, and I am blessed. How did you arrive there?
Oh, I guess just I'm like, oh, I don't know. Did I say that? No. I think it's kind of a reminder to myself, relentless. Just I made that my word. I want to say like in 2016, because it just has such a power that no matter what happens to you, to just say, I am relentless. I mean, if that's just your mantra, it's really hard to go, I'm not really going to do that, because you're like, I'm relentless. I can keep going. I can overcome. I've had like a really tough couple years. And for me to stand in that truth as, I'm never going to be, a sub 14-hour Ironman. I'm never going to, maybe I'll never do a sub 15 at this point, but I'm relentless. And I know that if I drop into a race, I will finish it. And that's all I set out to be, is to start what I finish and to keep chipping away at the goals. And to be able to do that makes me blessed. And to be able to say that I'm worthy of the time and the dedication that I'm willing to put into something. I mean, that's still hard. It's still hard to step into that worthiness. But, the more you set goals and accomplish them, or help your family accomplish their goals, I think it's easier to say, I am worthy of this. And so, yeah, I guess that's where it came from.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. That's good stuff there.
And going into Meredith, you're bringing up your family and kids, and being the one person in this conversation without children, I'll speak from the child's point of view here. So, there, I think it's you can tell your kids as much as you need, but I know for me, it was never what my mother actually told me. It was always watching what she actually did. And, I'm sure you realize that impact on your children, but I'm sure years and years from now, your children will tell you that, I got my work ethic from seeing, what you did. So
I hope so. Or they'll be like, she's crazy. I mean,
mostly that. Oh,
one or the other.
My mother's absolutely bat crap crazy. I will absolutely say she's a crazy person. But yeah, it was definitely, watching those finish lines for years and years is what inspired me for sure.
Yeah. And my daughter she's all into it. She's picked up the flag with athletics, and my son has rejected it wholeheartedly. And so the conversation with
Give him a couple
him
years,
is, yeah, like he's total rejected it. He did a couple of triathlons and he said they were the worst days of his entire life. And he's like, he's like, you've ruined my life, Mom. And so, but what he's learning and what, we set up in the house is like, look, you don't have to do a sport, but this is about health, and you have to move your body, whatever way you choose. I don't care, but you're going to move your body. You're going to go outside, or you're going to get on the treadmill, or you're going to get your butt on the rower, whatever, because it's about health. And that's where I lost my way as a teenager and well into my 30s before triathlon, and long into triathlon really, is that exercise was always about aesthetics. It was always about shrinking my body, not growing my soul, and not making me a better person. And so that's really the lesson I try and impart on the kids is like, look, it's about sunshine and feeling better, and not about changing your body, even though it is. But, I think if you can teach a love of movement early, that's where the gold is.
Definitely.
That is, that's good. If you could describe for us an average day in the life of Meredith Atwood, I would be very curious.
24 hours in the life. I love these.
What is that
videos.
like? You've got so many things going on.
I
I'm
know.
curious.
You are super busy.
Everyone's busy, and busy is a code word for not wanting to deal with our real life.
Exactly.
But so Meredith Atwood today is a lot different than the one who was an attorney and doing all these other crazy things. But life right now is pretty quiet. I woke up at 3:30 this morning.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not willingly.
Oh my gosh.
But I try to get up early, and people say that, but I really do. I try to get up no later than 5:30. But honestly, 4 a.m. if I can do well on that sort of rest, I get the most done from 4 a.m. to when the kids get on the bus at 8:15. So my morning is wake up. I've started meditating. Anyone that listens to my podcast is laughing right now because I have been resistant, like really angry about meditating, and I'm meditating. I'm on day 3. You can tell I'm really relaxed.
How do you
love it.
Like, what's your process? Like, how do you go and meditate?
Are you using an
Okay,
app
so
or
I'm
anything?
actually doing an online course.
Okay.
I interviewed this woman, Emily Fletcher, who's the founder of Ziva Meditation, and she gifted me her online course, and I'm on day 3, and I like it. But I got it like 2 more weeks to go. I usually make it to like day 5 and then I quit because I determine it a waste of time. But I'm really giving it a good college try. So right now I'm waking up and I'm meditating, and then I try and write something before the kids get up, whether it's an article I have due or just some sort of thoughtful something, just to keep, because writing is a habit. Anyone that wants to be a writer, you just have to write. It's not about editing. It's about just getting the thoughts out of your head. So I write, and then I do the mom stuff for school, lunches, get them on the bus, breathe a sigh of relief, pray it's not a snow day. And then I go work out, and then come back and either write or podcast, answer emails, do all that. And I just turned in my second book manuscript, which is coming out in December. So right now is kind of a weird time. Day in the life of me is just a lot of writing and a lot of isolation. We recently moved from Georgia to Kansas, and we're going to be moving from Kansas to Massachusetts in the summer.
Wow.
So
Where in
there's that
Kansas?
too. There's just a lot of there's a lot of interesting stuff kind of swirling around right now. It's kind of quiet, but very introspectively busy. I have a lot of things brewing, but nothing happening. If that makes any sense.
How's the training in Kansas? I'd imagine there aren't too many mountains.
It's so snowy right here. I mean, we moved here January 1st, and it's been, I don't even know how much snow. I mean, there's snow on the ground right here, but it's very windy. I can't imagine being on a bike here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's got to be crazy. But lucky for me, I'm very robust, so I don't blow over easy.
There you go.
Yeah, that's so where in Kansas are you?
I'm in Overland Park, so it's a suburb of Kansas City. Although apparently people in Missouri get mad when you say Overland Park is a suburb of Kansas City, Missouri, because there's like border wars here, and I didn't know that. And I said that once, and people, like, it was like, you know, the record label went, and everyone in the restaurant turned. I was like, oh, I didn't know that I was in a border war, but I'm technically in Kansas.
Yeah. Middle America gets a little bit protective over those lines there.
Yeah. Good thing we're not staying long. I mean, I'd hate to like really cause trouble here.
Yeah. So we're sitting at a table divided here, and I got a question for you. Of the 3 disciplines in triathlon, which is your favorite?
Cycling.
Yes. Right here, let's put it up. High five.
It really is. Swimming is my best. Swimming is effortless. I have a lot of fat. I float. It's easy. But cycling, yeah, that meditation of being on a bike when you were, and I forget who, I think it was Evan, you talked about your trainer century. And people say, oh, that's just the worst. How do you get on the bike trainer? I mean, to me, it was always about, you know, putting in that work, but also that's meditation.
I couldn't agree with you. I have told some people this. They asked me, because I used to have a treadmill that just faced a wall. So I would just run facing a wall, and people were like, I think you're a psychopath. That's the weirdest thing ever. I was like, no, that's actually, it's movement meditation, I guess.
Yeah.
That's
how I started when I started when the kids were little, and I had this treadmill that faced the wall, and I would put my dream board up there, and I had a picture of Tori Spelling, and I don't know why. But even to this day, I love Tori Spelling. I see her on Facebook. I'm like, oh, I love her, and everyone's like, I hate her. I'm like, I don't know why I love her, but now I just remembered.
Didn't you have a spelling on your podcast? I saw Randy.
I did. Spelling. I had her brother, and now I have 1 degree of separation.
There you go.
Did you tell him that you stared at Tori on the wall for hours?
I'm waiting for that one till I need it.
Yeah. But no, you're right. There is that meditation aspect to it that I really do enjoy. Yeah.
And especially being outside, which I mean, I haven't really done the really long rides, but I mean, when I was training for Ironman, I would go out and do a century, 100-miler by myself. And it would take me all day because I'm not putting the speed or the watts out that you guys were, but 6, 7 hours with rest stops on a bike. When your kids are 4 and 5, that's like a vacation.
That's a good point.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, I always joke I started triathlon to get away from my kids. And, it's partly true and partly not. And some people think it's funny and some don't. But it's true. Parents are so deserving of getting away from their kids and taking time for their health. And that's what I just chose to be on a bicycle, where some moms chose to do whatever,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, that's a whole lot better than some of the other options you could be doing there. So,
right.
Yeah. I know there does seem to be that stigma with, I hear people say this all the time whenever, somebody will talk about their training and what they're doing. And there's this like response from people who aren't in endurance sports, like this gut response that's like, oh wow, like where do you find the time to hang out with your kids? It's like this like judgmental first reaction.
Oh, yeah.
And to me,
I used to get it all the time. Yeah.
And I sit there and think, I was like, my mom did ultra marathons and triathlons through my entire childhood and was always present. And she was more present because her downtime wasn't sitting there watching TV. So
and look how you turned out.
Yeah, completely normal and absolutely fine over here. Yeah,
he stares at walls.
Yeah, I took a lot of heat. I got a lot of hate mail.
Did you really?
Training for Ironman with my kids, because I think my first one they were 3 and 4 or 4 and 5. They were little, but I still hold to this day. That's the time to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, now that they're 10 and 11, I can't even imagine trying to do it now. But yeah, I always kind of fired back, you women who are standing there hovering, helicoptering over your children. You're not doing any good. You're not really there. You're just manipulating them and, marionetting them through life. You're not actually present.
Yeah. I got to make plenty of mistakes.
Go ride your bike and then come back and be present. Yeah.
So another quick question for you. What's something that you're most looking forward to this year?
I am looking forward to walking into a bookstore and picking my book up off the shelf.
Yeah,
I was
awesome.
always a nerd. I
Yeah.
love libraries. I love books. And literally, if I could think of my first dream, it was to have a book in the bookstore. And this is literally happening on Tuesday. I already called the Barnes and Noble here. It's so dumb. But I didn't want to like take my kids in there and be like, where's my book? Mom's book's not here. But yeah, I mean, it's not. It's just this small dream that's happening, and and I've held the book. The book's great. It feels good. But to walk into a bookstore and know, I mean, I wrote that book, Triathlon for Every Woman, because when I started triathlon, there was not a book out there that spoke to me. There were books about triathlon, and you picked it up and it said, week 1, run 3 miles.
Yeah.
And I thought, what the hell, run 3 miles? And, so I wrote that book because I wanted any woman that walked in that was feeling fat, sad, isolated, angry, alone, and just wanted to change. She can pick up that book and go forth. And so I'm really proud that book is going to catch the eye of people that walk by it. It's been out there, but to literally be in a bookstore with your, I picture this mom, she's got her whining kids in a stroller, and her husband's mad. He's over in the other aisle in the bookstore looking at self-help or whatever. And she just wanders by the sports aisle and she sees this book. And I just want her to pick it up, because it can change everything. Learning how to step into those kind of dreams, even when you're not athletic. That's what I'm looking most forward to this year. I hope it makes a difference. That sounds egotistical, but I'm just really proud of it.
No, that's it's Meredith. I would say at basically any start line you get on this year in a triathlon, I bet you could look around and you're probably the only one who has a book in Barnes and Noble that everybody on that start line could go buy.
That's pretty cool.
So,
How did it feel when you got your advanced copy? Because that was this week, right?
Yeah, it was great. So I got a reading copy, which you learn so much when you're when you get actually published. I got this reading copy they sent me like 6 months ago, and I was like, oh, it's so small. Like it felt skinny. My other book felt like a Bible, and I was like, oh, I knew we cut a lot and changed a lot, but it just felt so skinny. And then this last week, I actually got the publication copy, and it's nice and fat. And I don't know what they did to it. I don't know if like the print I think the print got bigger, but yeah, I mean, just to hold it, and it's a pretty book too, and the cover feels good. When you get a cover, it's kind of creepy, and you're like, like this cover feels good. So it's pretty
really
cool.
Cool.
That is. Well, you are officially the only author on this podcast, because as far as I know right now, none of you three have written a book. Am I right? Has Lance written a book?
Not yet.
I've written pamphlets.
Pamphlets? Okay.
40-page pamphlets.
It's a start.
Oh, I have my wife, who is turned into an avid runner, and her mantra for this year was try the try. Now, rewind back about 2 or 3 years ago, she started a little local running group here, and you might have even heard of it. It's a chapter of a more of a national group called Moms Run This Town.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
Yeah, she started the one here in the Camas, Vancouver area, and then today now she's got over 400 women
They're
in this
killing
group.
it.
It's just
so ridiculous.
It's nuts how many women are in there, and they're doing such great things. So this year they're doing the try. And I'm hoping that a lot of them listen to this podcast and will actually, pick up your book. So if you could just give a little quip to these women about why this book would be a good thing for them to pick up and read, let us know right now.
Yeah. So this book will take you through every single thing you need to know to start training for a triathlon, to get to race day, to finish your first triathlon. It covers the mental game, the family dynamic. You've got a training plan that you can make your own. It kind of gives you a structure, but you can move everything around at the back of the book. There's a training plan for you. I've got an expert nutritionist who's in there, Dina Griffin, who is amazing. She's also known as the nutrition mechanic. She's got a whole chapter on really practical nutritional advice, not for weight loss, but for the whole health concept. Mm-hmm. But everything you need to know about getting a bike. What kind of bike do you need? What kind of goggles do you need? What kind of sports bra do you need? What do you wear on race day? All of that is in there. along with my ridiculous sense of humor and all the mistakes I made, so you don't have to make them. But it really is just a woman-to-woman guide for getting to your finish line.
I think that's great stuff. My wife has been like diligently going through this process, but at the same time, she just is like in no man's land. It's like as many resources as she can get her hands on, the better, because I mean, she's never swam before. So I mean, she had to basically learn from scratch. She knew how to swim, but like actually swimming competitively, she didn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I've been able to be a resource for her for the bike. And I know that she's been watching all of Matt here with us. He's got a great YouTube channel. She's been watching all of his videos and picking up on all his little tips and tricks and whatnot. So it'll be great to get your book in her hands, and I'm sure she will
that's
share
a
with her friends.
big group, and they're all just trying to do their very first triathlon.
Yeah, so
there's a lot of them.
Gosh, I would love to help. Just drop me into that group. I'll do whatever.
I'm
glad to talk to them. Yeah.
Yeah, I get to train a good group of them, actually, Meredith, and your name will definitely be dropped, and I'm glad, because there's plenty of things I cannot relate to that they're going through. Most things that they're going through I can't relate to. So being able to have a resource
I have a webinar that I frequently do. Like I'll drop into Facebook groups for just this purpose, and it's like an hour and a half, and I go through the swim, bike, run, race day, and everything you need to know, and it's stupid, funny, and fun. I'm glad
we should
to
definitely
do it
set
for
that up
anyone.
for them. Yeah, they would love that, and it is a big, very fast growing group. Yeah.
It's going to be fun, and any help you can give her to deal with me and her busy schedule, that'd be fantastic. I mean, she works full time, and she's now training full time, and she's putting up with me full time, and just trying to get through life. So I think this could be a good resource for her. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the book really does break it down into the simplest of things. Like even, when you and I look at a swim workout, we're like, 2 by 200, 30 seconds, blah, blah, blah. Like I break it down. Like I explain what a swim set is. Yeah. Like 2 by 20. What does this mean? And, what does a length versus a lap? I mean, it's broken down so simply that literally anyone can do a triathlon.
Well, and it's intimidating too, right? Like you show up on the pool deck and there's someone and they're like, here's the workout. You're going to do descending 300s, and then do this.
One arm pull, drill 50, like, right arm, left arm back. It's like, oh my God, I forgot it.
They're not speaking English, first of all.
Right.
I'm just going to follow what the person in front of me is doing.
Where do you go to learn that stuff, right? Yeah. Like other than,
back in time to when you're 6 years old and you go on a swim team. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's really nice to have that resource.
Good. Well, hey, let's get into our first topic here. And that's going to be, and I'm going to kind of modify this just a tiny bit, because I think that Meredith can speak to this. Getting more women involved in cycling, and here's my little addition, and triathlon.
Thank you.
So you don't hear me say that too often, so, being the cycling guy here. Let's talk about that. How do we get more women involved in these two different disciplines or arenas? Meredith, I'm really curious to hear what you have to say, because obviously that's your jam. That's what you do, and that's what you're doing right now. So anything right off the top of your head that you can share with us?
Well, I think just encouraging women to the benefits that are theirs personally from taking on a sport. I mean, I joke getting away from the kids, but truly to take an hour and get on your bike and on, finding a safe place and riding and feeling the wind and the sun. I mean, that is therapy. That will save you hundreds of dollars a month if you just, take that time. And I always said, with the pool is the best kept secret for athlete moms, because when you're underwater, no one can get you. You can't. Until they stick their little hand in the pool or the childcare people come and find you. But that time in the pool is when there's just the sound of the bubbles and, the time on the bike when there's just the sound of air. I mean, if you're a new mom out there listening, or just a woman with a hard job and you hear nothing but noise, I mean, just take a minute and close your eyes and imagine what it would feel like to hear just water or to hear just wind. And that's all this is. But at the same time, you're getting a workout and your body is getting to move. And so I didn't start cycling or triathlon for the sport or the competition. I started it for literally to find some time to myself. And that's what it promises. And it's there for you every time. And that's what I say to get into it, because as busy women, that's really what we want, is just some time to ourselves without like hands coming under the bathroom door.
There's, Meredith, Matt and I actually on the drive over here, we're talking about kind of the healthy mental approach to this sport. And I think you nailed it on the head with just talking about the escape aspect of it.
Absolutely.
Instead of treating it as something you're trapped in doing, like, oh, I'm trapped in this pool and I have to do this 3K workout. I think for the women you're speaking to, that's their escape.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the second you start that kind of rhetoric in your head, I have to. And I just wrote an article about this. I call it the have to mindset. Once you get into that mindset that you have to, you're in the wrong mindset. You're in the wrong headspace, and you need to dial it back, because you get to, and you are blessed to. And so many people in this world can't, for whatever reason. And if you're able-bodied, and heck, even if you're not, there's options too. But I mean, get out of that have to mindset and realize what a unique opportunity you have to go out and ride your bike, or to get in a pool, or to put on your running shoes and just go for a walk, a run walk. I mean, these are all things that we able-bodied women often take for granted because we're a little fat, or we're a little overweight, or we don't want someone to see us in a bathing suit. Like, that is wasted time. I mean, I would give anything to go back to how fat I was in high school, and I just wasted time there. And so, you only have this one body. We're not getting any younger. Use it. No matter what it looks like, just put your bathing suit on and go get in the pool and feel that weightlessness and the time to yourself. That's where the magic is.
And you know what? That transcends genders. I mean, that's for guys too, right there.
Yeah.
For sure.
I know you definitely have
Not all of them. I see a couple at the gym.
I think with some guys that gene is missing, the knowing what you look like at times, which is, I think, many people are very jealous of. So,
so Meredith, how do we get that message out to more women? I mean, we try to, on this podcast, we've definitely talked about this topic before, and we've tried to come up with solutions and things like that, but it's definitely tricky to get that message out to more people that this isn't it's not necessarily a guys club, and like we don't want it to be a guys club. Like how do we encourage more people into the sport?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it's just having examples of women like myself, like I don't think it was your wife. I have a hard time telling
it's hard
who
to
was
tell
talking. But, just having women out there doing it, seeing people like us. And then, if you find a resource, like, for example, my book, that you find helpful, like, pay it forward. I mean, I met a girl a couple years ago who came up to me and she's like, "Oh, I have your book. I got it from a friend who gave it to a friend who I think I'm like the 7th owner of this book." And I'm like, "Wow,
that's cool.
Wish you had all bought that."
Is awesome.
Exactly.
Still really cool.
Yeah. But to have a book that was handed to 7 different people, and not because they didn't like it, that's, I think, us all talking about it and saying, like, this really benefited me, and not in a competitive way. And also just, and this is hard for women to do because we don't want to offend other women. And some women do get offended, but I'll see someone at the gym, and I'm notorious for this. If they look like they might need to do triathlon, if they have like the 10-mile mom stare, I will talk to them, and I'll be like, "Oh, I saw you swimming. Do you want to do a triathlon?" And most of them are like, "God, lady, you don't even have any clothes on. Why are you talking to me in this locker room?" But I've done that with a lot of people, and it's amazing how many people are listening. And then they'll come back, 10 months later and grab me on the treadmill, and they'll say, "Oh, I signed up for a triathlon." And Lifetime Fitness has the indoor triathlons, and I know a lot of YMCAs are doing them too, but just grabbing a friend, and saying, "Let's go do this.
Yeah.
Let's go do this together. It'll be a hoot, and we'll really suck at it, but then we'll go eat ice cream."
See, I think you nailed on the head there, Meredith, with this saying, like, "Hey, we'll go suck at this," because triathlon seems to do a really good job, at least from what I've seen, in getting women into the sport more comfortably. Cycling, I think, is the sport is struggling with that right now.
To a certain degree,
yeah. Because I think visibility with triathlon, too, if you look at it, if you're watching the Kona broadcast, for the pro race or the pros, the women are just as visible as the men. I know people who could probably name more female pros than they could male pros.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, there aren't many sports in the world like that. I mean, really, like, I mean, think about what sports out there you could probably name as many female pros as you could male
Running's
pros.
good. There's some sports that are
Running
similar,
is definitely
but,
one, yeah.
But
Swimming would be another one.
Cycling is
Cycling?
is
Well,
horrible.
cycling's intimidating. I
It
mean,
is, yeah.
especially when you're local. You know, I was a strong cyclist.
Yeah.
But I'm hearing you guys say, "Yeah, I just went out and killed like 28 miles per hour." I'm like, "Oh no, like
Lance.
cannot ride with you."
Well, I think that's well, cycling also has a much longer history than triathlon
Right.
does, a much longer
Yeah.
history. And I mean, we're talking, early 1900s, it was probably mostly a men's club. Like,
Well,
that
but
was-
here's
yeah.
the counter argument to that is like
Yeah.
running's the same thing. Where
Running is, you're right,
They
yeah.
didn't allow women to run marathons, and then you look back and like that was stupid.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Yeah.
the-
And then now we have
But-
women winning
that are-
ultra marathons now. And
oh,
yeah.
yeah, they're.
I
better
think it's
runners.
hard for, especially if you don't have a gal pal to go to the local cycling shop for the quote unquote no drop ride. I mean, the biggest complaint I've
Yeah.
heard is
Yeah.
I went to a no drop ride and I was dropped because I think we've got to have women stepping up and leading women no drop rides because
Absolutely.
a female no drop ride is just not the same as a dude no drop ride.
Yeah.
It's not. Male cyclists are fast, and I know plenty of fast female cyclists too. But I mean, in the best shape, I was out there putting down 21, maybe 22 miles an hour. But that was, that's like the midweek slow ride for some of these shops. And so I think to answer your question, how do we get more women involved? Is we have to have female leaders, leading these rides and making it not intimidating. I know a lot of men are bridging the gap and making rides truly no drop and making them non-intimidating, but it's just, there's a discrepancy, I think.
Yeah. You're right.
And then
it
the
does.
outfits, they're just not that cute sometimes.
Well, they're not that cute on us either, really. I mean, like, no guy looks that great in a cycling kit.
Speak for yourself.
I look terrible in a cycling kit.
I think they're better than triathlon kits, though. There's
Yeah.
just no material there.
But there's kind of in triathlon, there's like an embracing of it. It's like none of us are wearing clothes right now. This is fine.
Right.
So
This
I
is
mean,
horrible.
that's the big
This is
barrier.
fine.
Let's be
Yeah.
real. When you're talking to women,
Yeah.
they don't want to put on spandex. Like it's
But-
horrible.
So I actually, Meredith, I'm from Ohio originally, and for years and years, the Athena and Clydesdale National Championship has been in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So it's also a really, really competitive half iron distance race too. So I'd always go there for that race. But it was awesome to see. I mean, I think it was always over 300-400 competitors in the Athena and Clydesdale divisions, and it was awesome. I mean, you had some big people in there in their wetsuits, and I mean, it was like we used to always joke the front line was like you were not getting past that front line. It was. I mean, it was different being somebody who's a little bit smaller getting into those triathlons, but it was so cool to see that group of people out there just killing it.
Yeah. And it's so funny. That is such I don't think for the guys as much, but for women, the Athena distinction is so interesting because some of us identify proudly as Athena. The cutoff is 165 pounds.
I was about
will
to ask what the
never
weight
weigh.
cutoff was. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll never
165
weigh under
pounds, really?
165.
That seems
Yeah.
light to me. That's like 165 pounds is not that heavy.
No.
Well,
it
that's
seems
for
really light
women.
to me.
So the
What's
men
the
is, I
cutoff
think,
for men?
220.
Do you know? 220 for men? Okay.
I think it's 220. It was
Still,
200. I
that
think it's
doesn't
220. But
Yeah.
it's really interesting. Coming from weightlifting where we had weight classes.
Yeah.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
a big fan of weight divisions. I wish triathlons were divided. I wish everyone had to weigh because then you're competing against like people.
Yeah.
Like to me,
I would
don't
love to
think
not
I
have to
should
run against a guy who weighs
against-
125 pounds. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to race against a girl who's 113 pounds. I want to race against a girl who's 185. I'll take her down. I mean,
Yeah,
but it's really divisive. Like women don't want to, they either proudly identify as Athena or they want nothing to do with it because it's
Yeah.
based on this weight thing. But to me, I think we should just identify where we are, race with where we are. But that's a sticky subject for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So we've touched on, pulling women into the sport and trying to make it as accommodating as possible. But what about setting the table for the future by way of getting more juniors, young women involved in the sport at a younger age? How do you recommend we do that?
I think some of the best things are, obviously the Girls on the Run programs that they're getting girls to be runners at a young age. But there's so many great kids triathlons, and just taking your toddler on their tricycle to go do one of these races. I think it's just up to us as parents and uncles and teachers even to just expose kids to it, because you can watch the kids, that are 5 and 6, and you can see the future of triathlon there. And then you can see the ones whose parents drug them there, like my son, who rides by on his bike and sticks his tongue out at me because he's angry. But just exposing kids to the fun of it, and being a good sport and a good steward of the sport as a parent. I mean, that's so important. They are watching all the time, and if you're out there having a bad attitude when you're training, your kids are going to pick up on that too. So it's just about setting the example, I think, across the board.
I totally agree with that. With respect to cycling, we talked about why aren't there as many women out there? And we talked about it being a little bit intimidating. I think there's another underlying current there in that a lot of the women who are avid cyclists, I'm not saying all of them by any means at all, but a lot of them come from a sports background, and they fell into the sport because they got injured. And their doctor / physical therapist told them, hey, you're going to have to stop running and start, doing something different. Cycling's perfect. It's low impact. And they end up falling in love with the sport and decide, I'm actually pretty darn good at this. And I'm going to pursue it and see where that takes me. So that's one segment. I think the other segment is the parent who stops and presses pause on their life and takes the time to take their kids out and ride bikes with them. So I think that's another thing that we can do as parents for our kids. Not only is it going to lend itself to a healthy future for our kids, because we know how long we can cycle in life, but you're setting the table for them to be active cyclists from the time that you start working with them as a little kid all the way through the rest of their life. And they will in turn then kind of infect their friends with that cycling bug. And I think that you can say the same thing with respect to triathlon. If you're a triathlete and you press pause and you take your kid out to start getting them engaged in events, then I think that's a great thing. Here locally, and I'll let Matt speak to this because he knows this probably better than I do, Y Racing Events actually does something where they let kids race for free.
Yeah, well, this is new this year, and the local race event organizer, and it's kind of like the greater Portland area, they have some events and further out, but they do a really good job. They put on about 10 triathlon. Yeah. Well, they put on about maybe
8 probably.
Maybe 8 triathlon events,
8,
and then they also
10,
do a marathon, and they do a whole bunch of running events as well. But yeah, they just decided this year kids race for free. And I just thought, because they do some really nice things where they do a splash and dash where they have one of those blow up houses, and they fill it with water, and then so they splash through that, and then they get on their bikes, and
that's cool.
Yeah, they have a whole bunch of really cool events, and they also have some I think your kids, Jake, have done that Columbia River race where they swim in the river, and they don't swim very far, but then they get out and they're on their bikes and stuff. So they have some cool events, and I thought it was really nice of them to just be yep, it's free, because I'm sure they were making money on that.
Oh yeah,
event,
for sure. And there was a lot of kids out there too.
A lot of kids that do it for sure. Super nice of them to do that. I mean, for any of our listeners, if they want to check it out, it's yevents.com. I mean, we should definitely plug them for anytime good people do good things. We definitely want to, make it known for sure. So,
good. I do have a question though, and maybe Meredith can help me out with this one. Something that I get from a lot of parents or people that are kind of savvy in the know with respect to working with juniors is that working with girls, they typically have a hard time gravitating to the sport because it's very male dominant in terms of the coach or the leader or the protagonist who's putting the ride together or the training program together or working with these junior programs. They want a woman to work with them, and there just aren't a lot of them out there to be had. So I guess part of my question is, well, we need to get more women in there and coaching and attracting these kids in. But how is it that, myself as a team director and being a male, how can I better connect with these younger women to get them interested in coming out and doing some more racing with us and making it a more inviting atmosphere for them? Not that it's uninviting, but making them want to come back for more and not having this whole mantra of I don't want to work with men, kind of thing. So how can we get around that?
I don't know. I mean, that's a really good question. I mean, coming from weightlifting, I was a youth in a male dominated sport at the time, and all my coaches were male. And so, I didn't have a lot of experience with female coaches, but I went to high school with a girl named Marcy who runs part of wecoach.org, and that their organization is actually built to help bring more female coaches into sports in general and at all levels. And so they might actually be a really good resource for you. We Coach is the name. But, again, I think you just need those one or two, and I hate the word ambassador because everyone's using it right now, but ambassadors to the sport. You have that 15-year-old girl who loves cycling. Like, how can you put her in that sort of senior ambassador role for younger kids? I mean, I think that's what we have to look to. We have to look to these models. If you have a great young female professional cyclist that we can start highlighting, like getting press coverage. I mean, that's when gymnastics booms and swimming and all these sports because they have role models. Kids will not gravitate towards someone they cannot model. And I think once you get that going, you'll start having more coaches as well. Yeah. I think it's actually might be the reverse. It might be the role model that needs to come before the coach. I don't know.
Yeah. You're right. I think, and that's kind of the point I was trying to make there is if you think swimming, running, and triathlon, we can all think of like a big, very successful, visible woman in all those sports. I mean, Chrissy Wellington in triathlon.
Right. Katie Ledecky
in plenty of women in swimming and in running. I mean, in this region, Shalane, there's, Gwen Jorgensen now. There's very visible runners like in this region.
Cycling is hard.
Yeah. So that's all. There you go. That's the equation.
Cycling is hard. Good luck.
That's all they need.
They clone Kristen Armstrong or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Armstrong for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
they need to be because that's the thing is it's not just the talent because there's plenty of incredibly fast cycling women out there. It's got to be this charismatic. I mean, you look at, I know this is controversial, but when Lance Armstrong came onto the scene in America, that's when American cycling
had a
huge bubble.
There was like Greg LeMond was visible, but Greg LeMond was not the character that Lance Armstrong is. He was not this
different time frame too. I mean,
Well, we need to get Lindsey Vaughn because she's retiring.
That's
from
a good
skiing.
point.
So we need, and she's a powerhouse. Like she just needs to be a cyclist.
Yeah.
So I'll get on that.
give her 1 year. Just get her. There you go.
Let her rest. Let her heal up, and then make her a cyclist. Perfect.
Yeah.
Sweet.
She would kill it.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
absolutely.
It's a great plan. You heard it first here.
We were just talking about this too. We just need to get retired female rowers to all jump on bikes too. They're incredibly fit. Just get them on bicycles. There you go. You can make a pro cycling team in 1 year.
Yeah.
It's true, though. You should get one of these bike companies behind your idea. Go pitch it. Be like, we just need 6 bikes. We'll do it. Fine.
All right. Anything else to add to that? Getting more women and young women involved in the sport of cycling and triathlon?
I think just to say it's not as bad as you think it is as an adult to learn to ride a bike. I was a kid who grew up in a really small cul-de-sac, and I went from trash can to trash can because I couldn't use my brakes. So I would just ride and hit the trash can, get off and hit the next trash can. And I mean, I kid you not, my mom still jokes like every time I go out for a ride, she's like, "Hope the neighbors put their trash cans up." And I'm like, "Oh, really, Mom?" I've
like
done 4 Ironmans.
Imprints of yourself in each yard along the way.
Right. But, it's like everything that feels hard. Once you're in the middle of it, it gets easier. And the same with swimming. And I think cycling is not as hard. The freedom greatly outweighs the pain of learning. Like, just get on a bike, any bike. And I think that's a big thing too, is there's this perceived barrier to entry that you need some sort of fancy bike. Yeah. But all you need is to get on a bike and that fits you reasonably well with pump tires. But to learn that love of cycling, and that's where it starts.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. All right, let's jump into one last thing. We'll run around the table here and have our parting thoughts before we say goodbye. Lance, one last thing.
I just wanted to plug Meredith Atwood's 2 great things she's got going on.
Yeah.
Her podcast, which is called The Same 24 Hours. She has had numerous fantastic guests on there.
I like that title. That's a very cool title.
Meredith.
Cool.
24 Hours, yeah. And then also her book. When it comes out, go pick up a copy. It's called Triathlon for the Every Woman. So we're super happy to have you on
me.
the show, Meredith. It's been
Thank
great
you.
speaking with you for sure.
Very cool. Evan, one last thing.
So keeping with the women in endurance sports here, I have a very good friend of mine from back in Ohio who's a professional triathlete. Her name's Nikki Luce. She just competed in New Zealand Ironman. She finished the race, which was awesome because this woman had a few years ago a battle with breast cancer, survived it, and came back to professional triathlon. So she was a professional triathlete, was diagnosed with breast cancer, took a year away from the sport, and then came back and is killing it again. And it's
Wow.
And her
Yeah.
race was okay.
She was, I think there were 14 women. She was 11th out of there.
Okay.
Which was, I mean, just awesome that she was even able to finish, the race at that level. But everybody, anybody listen to this, go ahead and follow her Instagram and Facebook. Nikki Luce Pro Triathlete is how you can find her. And she is, just an inspiration to definitely the Midwestern triathlon scene. And that's why, I think I knew that there were a lot of women in the sport of triathlon because I came from a region that has visible people like that.
Yeah.
So it's very cool that she's got her first one under the belt this season.
It's amazing.
That's right.
Matt, one last thing.
Yeah, I put out a couple videos recently, but this Wednesday, basically the day that this podcast will come out, we think, I'm going to drop a video about being kind of new to swimming. I mean, we talked a lot on this particular podcast, like how do we get new people into this? And I think swimming is pretty intimidating. And a lot of times what I hear people say is like, I get in the water, I swim down the lane and back, and I'm absolutely exhausted. And like, that was me. Like, that's totally my story. Like I was a runner growing up, like I knew the endurance was there, but like I was like, I get in the water and I cannot go for more than like a minute or two without just like holding on to the lane lines. And so the video is basically like that concept, like here's what you should do, like work on your breathing, work on, go through a couple little suggestions or whatever. And then I think I finished with some sort of like super simple 1,000 meter workout that you can do and roll with. So look for that video on Wednesday.
Matt, where can I watch that video at? I don't know.
You have a YouTube channel?
Oh,
You're on YouTube? You're a YouTuber, huh?
I'm pretty famous.
This is what your kids want to be when they grow up, right?
It's youtube.com/mlegrand, MLEGRAND. I think currently there's some like training camp videos that
Those
there's,
were
like,
excellent.
Yeah, he's
great.
got part 1 and part 2 of the California trip.
California trip. Yeah. So a lot of biking stuff. So more fun things to come for sure.
All right. Meredith Atwood, one last thing, please.
Yeah. Oh, I have to say something?
Yes,
Well,
good.
you don't have to.
What?
If she doesn't
What?
have one last thing, I
This
feel
is
like-
better when it's
one
on the
last
spot.
thing.
Go.
Okay. So the subtitle of my book is You Can Be a Triathlete, Yes You. So my last thing is you can be fill in the blank, whatever you really want to be, yes you. And that's kind of the mantra for me. That is the one last thing.
Awesome.
Love that. Yeah, I love that. My one last thing. Jack Frost time trial is coming up this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
First race of the season, the unofficial start to the road racing season, albeit it's a time trial. So good luck to everybody going out and doing that. But we got some unfinished business here. Matt, what's our bet?
Oh.
And let me preface that with I will not be on a time trial bike this year.
Okay, I was wondering if that would be the case.
I'm gonna run the Eddie class one more time for a couple different reasons. Most
it.
notably is that there's still not a drivetrain on my TT bike. That's kind of another story in itself, which has a cool ending. But I will be on my road bike, and I will try and get second place for the 4th year in a row.
Okay. Here's what I think we should do. I think we should go straight up.
Straight up, I'm down with
Straight
that.
up. We've done that in the past. I think
Yes.
we've done that in the past couple of years. So,
Yeah.
so for those of you guys that don't know what we're talking about, time trial, I get all the aero gear that you can throw a stick at. Like that's aero helmet, aero wheels, aero bike, blah, blah. Like I put money into this sport. Let's see what it can do for me. Jake gets none of that.
No,
And
Jake gets a road bike and a helmet.
road
Yes.
bike. Yeah. And so, so that's the bet. And then Jake has always beat me. I have not yet pulled it off, but we're going to go even time. So whoever has the fastest time, and let's go like a 6-pack of LaCroix or some sort of bubbly water type thing.
Well, you know what? I don't get them anywhere else but at Costco, and they come in like a 2-case pack.
So how about this? Whoever
Just a case.
You guys should really try the polar orange vanilla flavor. It would really change your perspective on the look. Crap.
How about the loser has to buy like some sort of sparkling water for the podcast?
Done deal, my friend.
Or orange vanilla.
I like it. Okay.
That
good.
could be fun. All right. That is a wrap, folks. And one more time, Meredith, thank you so much for joining us. It was
Oh,
awesome.
thank you. This was fun.
Good.
Awesome talking with you, and I'm really looking forward to your book coming out, and I will definitely make sure that we share that all over the place, especially with my wife's running group. That's going to be fantastic for them. So,
Excellent.
We will catch you guys all next week. You guys here at the table, thank you again for coming back for yet another one. We've been doing this for about a year now, if you can believe that.
Is
Which
this,
is absolutely
what
nuts.
number is this?
This is 53 or 4.
Three or
I don't know,
four,
something
yeah.
like that, yeah. But I think it was our next podcast will be our 1 year anniversary, which is kind of neat. So there's a few of them in the bank. But anyway, thank you everybody for listening. We will talk to you soon. Bye for now.